This message is brought to you by North Ringwood Uniting Church, a God-focused, grace-filled community helping you grow. We hope you enjoy.
Let's pray. God, I thank you that you're with us right now. And I'm glad that you know what I'm going to say. That's great. I'll know what I'm going to say soon too. I give this message to you, God. Let your words be spoken, your truth be taught, your wisdom, not mine. I thank you for all that you've taught me on these topics. Help me be a clear communicator of them to these wonderful people. Let your truth stick in our hearts, and let untruth be scattered in the breeze. In your name we pray. Amen. So, I'd like to start with a story. Going back, tonight I'm talking on poverty and global warming. Yay! And the thing that connects them together in my reading and understanding of the world, which is money. But starting back in my story, growing up, through high school, we had in Melbourne what was called the Millennium Drought. So we had 10 years of not much rain, and come 2004, 2005, we kind of started panicking, like, oh dear, what if our dams run out of water? This had an impact on me and my family. We thought the target 155, 155 litres per person per day, try and reduce your consumption down to that. We thought that was a little bit of a joke because we went whole hog. We timed our showers down to 4 or 5 minutes. We stopped watering the garden. We had fruit trees, we had herbs and stuff. We stopped watering them, and instead whenever we wash our clothes, we'd capture all that water. We'd have like 6 buckets and we'd fill up bucket, and then we'd take that water and we'd put that on the plants. The ones that we wanted to survive, the other ones, well, they did or they didn't. And so I guess this personal reality of how our family interacted with that situation started my passions on this area of where we interact with the planet kind of comes into our everyday lives. Fast forwarding into the end of high school, and I was doing studies into what is climate science, climate change, why have we known about it now for 30, 40 years and we haven't done anything? And so I was learning about the denial industry, the people making money out of spreading doubt into the accuracy of the science or whatever. And so from there, and going into uni, studying engineering, studying more about how this actually works, and then getting more interesting in the politics of it. So why are some parties, political parties, interested in doing stuff and some interested in slowing us down? How is it that they talk about a difference between either we can grow our economy and give people jobs, or we can spend a lot of money on expensive energy and save the trees or whatever. Like, why is there this dichotomy? And so I went from, okay, why are they recommending things like carbon trading or carbon tax or cap and trade or all these terms that all to do with money? I didn't really understand much about money, so let's try and understand what they're talking about there. And so for the last 10 years, I've been trying to understand how our economy ties into these things. Because to start off with, in the time of no water, it was a bit of a personal existential crisis thing, like the science is saying that humanity might be extinct within my lifetime if that's the worst case scenario. Like, okay, I need to take it seriously for me because it's threatening my life. But then few years down the track and I'm growing in my faith and, I'll survive a bit longer, but who it impacts first are the poorest on the planet. There's 1 billion people who live on the seashore. Sea levels rise. They die first. I'm called to love my global neighbour. Maybe I need to change my ways to show love to them. And so, my way of thinking has shifted somewhat over time. So, that's a bit of my introductory story. Now let's try and unpack some of that into this message, starting with, can I get a volunteer to read something from the screen? Being the Deuteronomy reading. Sure. Good work, Phoebe.
At the end of every 7 years, you must cancel debts. This is how it is to be done. Every creditor shall cancel any loan they have made to a fellow Israelite. They shall not require payment from anyone among their own people, because the Lord's time for cancelling debts has been proclaimed. You may require payment from a foreigner, but you must cancel any debt your fellow Israelite owes you. However, there need be no poor people among you, for in the land the Lord your God is giving you to possess as your inheritance, he will richly bless you. If only you fully obey the Lord your God and are careful to follow all these commands I am giving you today. For the Lord your God will bless you as he has promised, and you will lend to many nations, but will borrow from none. You will rule over many nations, but none will rule over you. If anyone is poor among your fellow Israelites in any of the towns of the land the Lord your God is giving you, do not be hard-hearted or tight-fisted toward them. Rather, be open-handed and freely lend them whatever they need. Be careful not to harbour this wicked thought. The 7th year, the year for cancelling debts, is near, so that you do not show ill will toward the needy among your fellow Israelites and give them nothing. They may then appeal to the Lord against you, and you will be found guilty of sin. Give generously to them and do so without a grudging heart. Then, because of this, the Lord your God will bless you in all your work and in everything you put your hand to. There will always be poor people in the land. Therefore, I command you to be open-handed towards your fellow Israelites who are poor and needy in your land.
Thank you, Phoebe. So that's got everything to do with climate change. Talk done. But it does talk about the poor. And this is what Jesus, sometimes people will quote the verse that Jesus says, there will always be poor people among you. This is what he's quoting. And this verse, they would have known this is what he's quoting because it's so obvious that you will always have poor people among you. But all of that is trying to say that, hey, God doesn't want poor people among you. If you are generous towards the poor people in your land, if you cancel the debts to the poor people, if you don't lend to the poor people, all these things, you're not going to have poor people. So, but wait, Israelites didn't do so well following God's commands. And it says you will have no nation rule over you. Time Jesus referred to this, the Romans were ruling over them. So, it's conditional. Obey and I'll bless you. It's linked. But let's define some of these terms. Poverty. So that would be if you're struggling to have water to drink, food to eat, shelter, basic needs. To do with basic needs, global poverty headcount today is 4.3 billion people. That would be 60% of the world population. That's a lot of people that don't have enough money to make basic ends meet. Injustice. Well, this series is on social injustice, so it's to do with relationships between people. And you'll always have poor people with you. Well, what about reducing the number of poor people among us? That is an element of injustice. There's quite a few books in the Old Testament that are from prophets, and one time a friend kind of challenged me, and I'm like, that's a really good challenge. I read the prophets back to back, see if there was any common theme or thread. They're all from the same God over hundreds of years, but reading them back to back, you kind of pick up on common themes. Israel kind of sucked in the same way, again and again and again and again and again. Don't worship foreign gods. Show justice to the poor and needy. Look after the oppressed in the land, again and again and again. Global warming. So this is related to, we cut down trees, which are really good at giving us oxygen and taking away carbon out of the atmosphere, and then we dig up a whole bunch of carbon from the ground and we spread it into the atmosphere to give us energy, to cool us down on hot days like this, and to heat us up on cold days like winter, and lights, and technology, and making phones, and like there's lots of amazing things that the energy gives us, but it's essentially... Thank you. Now's the next one to turn me off. Oh, so you did turn me off. Yes, you just turned me off. Okay. So it's that idea that you put this extra carbon in the atmosphere and it's like a greenhouse. And the sun gets in and it's harder for the sun to get out, so it gradually warms, sea levels rise, yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to really talk much about that one. But that's what global warming is. It's changing the way our entire planet works for our own comfort and our own enjoyment of life. Money. Well, I'm about to get on to more about money, but I'm thinking a big picture view of money. So not just what you've got in your wallet, but foreign currencies, Australian money, what you got in the bank account, credit cards, shares, bonds, like the whole list of what you think about money. So, now to get to some fun stuff. I need 4 volunteers to come and move chocolate around a table. 3 people? No. Come on up. Okay, so this table, that's like the economy, everyone in it, and these people are like the people in the economy. They're individual people, or they could be sectors of the economy, or they could be different companies, or they could be different countries. Doesn't really matter, there are different players. And I've got some money. So a bit of money for you. Bit of money for you. Bit of money for you. And bit of money for you. Oh, that would be communism. No, we'll change that up a bit. No, we'll let the exercise change it up again. Let's assume everyone starts with the same amount. Now, spend all of your money on each other. All right, good.
We can't see.
You can't see?
So you have to...
Everyone stand up. And come, look around, cluster around.
Like
Gather around. So what's something one of you bought this week? You bought a dream this week? From where? From... And you bought KFC this right? Right. So you spent money on KFC, and they gave you KFC. And that money would have, part of it, gone to pay the wages of the person that gave you the KFC. So you gave money to them, and they got money as income. So you moved the money all around. There's there's 16 bits of money. And so all the spending, 16 bits of money, became income of 16 bits of money. So do it again. Everyone spend on each other. All right. So now the person that was working at KFC just went out and they bought a jumper. And well, why in this weather, I don't know. It was cheap. A bargain. End of. And then the person that sold them the jumper received income from the money that was spent from the KFC. So it's all moving around. Now, what happens if we want to save? So who wants to be the saver? You can save. You get to save 2 bits of money. So save them, yep. Now spend on everyone. All right, now save some more. All right, spend again. And then save some more. Whose were they? All right, now save some more. And spend. All right, now save 3 this time. Spend it round. Right. All right, save some more. So this year or month or whatever this is, you're not spending anything? You're just saving? All right, spend it all. You guys over here, you seem to be getting pretty poor. Why are you making these poor life choices? I mean, you should get a better job or something. Like, how is it that her choices of saving, taking it away from other people? That's not their choice. But, so that's idea number one. Now, put it back on the table. That's yours. That's a bit like capitalism. That's a bit more, more of that sort of idea. This isn't, even spreading. But you're not really rich now. How about we make DMAC a bank? So you want to buy a house. You're gonna... No. So you can't afford a house with just that much. Yeah. So DMAC can loan you from... No, not from that one, from my magic bank box. So... you need what? $500,000?
Yeah.
So you can spend maybe 10 of those. So he's given you 5, lent you 5, but you now owe him 5 plus interest. So you're going to buy a house from you. And you sold the house because it was mothers, grandmothers, whatever, died, inheritance, so now it will be spent with everyone else in the economy, so spend everywhere. Everyone else spends too. And now you need to give back. So 1 for the 5, but also 1 interest. So that was the interest, you keep that, and this one, that's gone. Now, spend again, buy some more TVs, maybe a new iPhone, whatever. And now you spend back, pay it back. So 1 to pay back that, and 1 interest. All right, now spend again, come on. And pay back. Okay. And again. And again. Very good. And one more time. Give it back and interest. Yep. Very good. Thank you everyone for checking this out. So, the idea of debt is it creates a blast of new money. And so it's kind of like a drug. It's like a high when you go on a sugar high. You're suddenly, whee, everyone's got a lot more money. But then time gets on, and the effect wears off, and it's a bit of a drain. It's a bit of a low after the sugar high. So that's my example. And now for some scripture. Take a seat. Thank you, everyone. Okay. Luke 12, and a volunteer. Thank you.
Someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Jesus replied, "Men, who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you?" Then he said to them, "Watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist of abundance of possessions." And he told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, "What shall I do? I have no place to store my crops." Then he said, "This is what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store my surplus grain. And I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry." But God said to him, "You fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich toward God."
Thanks very much. So in the first section up here, Laura was saving all the chocolate for herself. This is the sort of attitude that was talked about in this parable here. The guy had a massive harvest and he's like, "I'm going to hoard all for myself." Now, Jesus isn't saying don't save money. Though if you're a bit shallow with the reading, maybe you think that. He's saying if you have an attitude of hoarding it all for yourself, that means that people are going to miss out. Other people are going to get poor when you have that attitude. And he's saying, well, that attitude is also not going to help you in the long run because you're going to die, and how's that going to help you when you die? In Matthew, Jesus says, "Freely you've received, freely give." That's a much better attitude. That's an attitude of spend, give, tithe, be generous with your money, and then God has blessed this earth richly, and there will be enough for everyone if you have that attitude. So the second scenario was looking at debt. So let's look at one of the Old Testament debt laws from Leviticus.
If any of your fellow Israelites become poor and are unable to support themselves among you, help them as you would a foreign and stranger, so they can continue to live among you. Do not take interest or any profit from them, but fear your God, so that they may continue to live among you. You must not lend them money at interest or sell food at a profit.
So this is saying don't exploit the poor among you, and especially don't do it with debt. Or if you must do it with debt, don't make them pay back interest that they're unable to afford. Because if you take on debt that in the long term you can't afford, in that time they had slavery for that sort of situation. So if you overextended yourself, now I've run out of money, okay, I'm your slave, you have my hard work until I've paid back all of what I owed you. And in standard Jesus fashion, he takes a really difficult Old Testament law and he makes it stronger. His ideals are so crazy high. The whole, if you have anger in your heart towards your sibling, it's like you murdered them. Yay. Let's read from Luke 6. Who can I get to read? Thank you.
But to you who are listening, I say, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you. If someone slaps you on one cheek, turn to them the other also. If someone takes your coat, do not withhold your shirt from them. Give to everyone who asks you, and if anyone takes what belongs to you, do not demand it back. Do to others as you would have them do to you. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who are good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do that. And if you lend to those from whom you expect repayment, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners, expecting to be repaid in full.
Here's the punch to the guts. Keep going.
But love your enemies, do good to them, and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be the children of the Most High, because he is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful.
So lend to the person you hate most without expecting them able to repay you. What? Thanks, Jesus. Yay! Thanks, Jesus, for making what was already hard. Don't lend to poor people with interest. Give them favourable treatment when it comes to money. Or now, someone you hate, don't expect to get the money back when you lend it to them. Just give lovingly to them. Thanks. Okay, and where else can we talk about money within Jesus? Oh, what about the Lord's Prayer? Let's have Matthew 6. This then is how you should pray. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread and forgive us our debts. Cancel our debts, as we have also forgiven those in debt against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. And I think that goes on to say, I should have asked for 14 and 15. Matthew. I'm going to be quicker, me or them. Haha. For if you forgive other people, like forgive them their debts, when they sin against you, your heavenly Father will also forgive your debts. So he reiterates that idea, but then connects the debts to sin. So he's talking a lot about this stuff. Let's see how these ideas connect into, I was meant to talk on poverty and global warming. Let's get back to those things. So poverty. In my reading, I've come across two stories of why are these poor countries over here so poor? Story number one, they have corrupt governments. We give them billions of dollars in aid, and then the rich government is like, yoink, I'll take that to build rich palaces, I'll use corruption, I'll take all that money, and all that money you're wasting on them, it doesn't actually get to them. But if the money got to them, best story, they can get roads, they can get energy plants, they can get all this good housing, good jobs. Once they've got a stronger economy like ours, like our rich economies, then they'll be able to feed themselves. They will have enough water to drink. They'll, they can look after themselves. We'll fix the poverty problem if we just give them lots of money. Story number two. What happens if the rules of global trade are set up so it actually benefits us rich countries and it's bad for them? For example, some facts. We transfer 130 billion each year from rich countries to poor countries. We've been doing that for decades. Why aren't they rich yet? That's a lot of money, $130 billion. Some of this is in the form of charity. We see good works. But a lot of 130 billion is given as loans. It has debt strings, conditions attached. So, conditions maybe, Australia will give you this loan of money. Vote with us in the UN. Thanks. We'll give you this loan. You've got to pay it back at the interest rates we set. Oh, and we gave it in Australian dollars, so pay us back Australian dollars. Not your stuff, our stuff. Unfortunately, even though so much is given, more comes out. The debt service that the poor countries must pay back to the rich countries is 200 billion. So they're paying 200 billion back in interest to the banks of rich countries. That's about double what we're giving. what about illicit financial flows? So tax evasion by the big companies that work there. Just this week past, we had the Paradise Papers be released, which shared a little bit of that information, huge amount of data from a law firm that deals in tax havens. So there's about $1,000 billion, $1 trillion flows out of these poor countries each year by tax evasion of rich companies that flows to tax havens. 130 billion in, 1.2 trillion out. I wonder why they're poor. So that would be a connection between debt and poverty, but that's all legal because we wrote the rules. We made sure that we set up the rules so that this stuff can go on and doesn't break the global trade rules because it benefits us, right? We get some cheap. If we make our stuff there, there'll be cheap labour, and so it'll cost less to get the stuff. What about global warming? Well, I already mentioned that it has its worst impact on the poor, that those richest within our country, we can build bunkers for ourselves, we can build mansions and lock the gate and mean that we'll be safe when everything else is destroyed. But for the poor, well, if they die from heat stress, if they can only afford to buy on the coastline and then that gets inundated, well, tough luck for them. Point number 2, some of the debt strings that we place in the poor countries, we want what's underground in your country. We want the coal or the oil or the minerals. We want to take that. And we will pay you, maybe, for what's on your land. But, you already have that big debt with us, so maybe we'll reduce some of that if you let us just take that. Yeah, thanks. So, yay. Another point. Where does profit come from with money? There's a lot of money coming around, but how does the surplus come from that generates ability to make profit? Well, that's a contentious problem that they've been arguing about for hundreds of years. But what if it comes from the energy? 200 years ago, we had steam engines that could burn a ton of coal in a day, and that could power, 200 light bulbs. Today, we've got Saturn IX rocket, in 3 minutes, burns 200 million tons of kerosene. 200 million tons of kerosene, in 3 minutes, boom, the rocket gets into the orbit. That's 1 million times as much energy in the last 200 years. We are using so much energy, and that extra harnessing of energy is what generates so much richness in our society. But it also comes at a cost to the poor and to the planet. So, money can be used for good or evil. You can bless a friend or a global neighbour with some charity, or you can focus on yourself and take all that you can. Our choices have consequences, far beyond how we can know or understand, but God knows them. His rules don't always make sense, unless we study them carefully. But to love God is to obey God, regardless of whether they make sense at the time, before they even make sense. God, Jesus, Bible, prayer. These are all such important summary topics of this stuff that how do we grow to better love people, better understand these things, grow to better serve our God that we love? God, Jesus, Bible, prayer. Because they're an important part of all our lives. Every part of our lives. Even the money parts. Thank you.